Hello and welcome to my channel. Well, presently we are in the third part of the Preventive Medicine in Obstetrics, Pediatrics and Geriatrics series. If you're new to this channel and if you like the content, then please do like, comment, share and subscribe. Subscribing to the channel is totally free, but it gives a major moral booster to my efforts. And please press the bell icon so that you are notified every time there is a new content. So let's begin. We'll take them for the low birth weight babies. Anyone weighing less than 2.5 kgs, preferably taken at the first hour of life, is taken as a low birth weight baby. And this is irrespective of the gestational age of the baby. Usually, two types of low birth weight are taken into account based on its origin, that it may be preterm, when the baby hasn't completed 37 weeks of gestation, and this accounts for a third of the low birth weight childs. And the second one is a small for date, or the baby suffering from intrauterine growth retardation or IUGR, that is less than 10th centile for the gestational age, and this accounts for the major, that is the 2/3 of the low birth weight neonates. How to compute the low birth weight babies? Well, the percentage of low birth weight babies is computed as the live born babies with birth weight less than 2.5 kgs divided by the total number of live births. Here the total number of live births is the denominator and this is multiplied with 100. The low birth weight babies can be classified into preterm babies, less than 37 weeks of maturity, term babies, 37 to 42 weeks of maturity, post-term babies, that is more than equal to 42 weeks of maturity or gestational period. The preterm babies based on gestation can again be extremely preterm, that is less than 28 weeks of gestation, or very preterm, that is 28 to 32 weeks, and moderate to late preterm where the neonate is 32 to 37 weeks of gestation. The preterm birth subtimes can also be depending upon the circumstances, that is there may be spontaneous preterm birth or it may be provider initiated preterm birth where the medical healthcare provider intervenes based on various health grounds. The maternal factors that may be responsible for low birth weight babies are majorly malnutrition, severe anemia, heavy physical work undertaken by the mother, hypertension, malaria, toxemia, smoking, low socioeconomic status, short maternal stature, that is usually less than 140 centimeters, high parity, close birth spacing, and low educational status. The fetal factors are fetal distress, multiple gestation, erythroblastosis fetalis, placenta previa, abruptio placentae, and different fetal abnormalities. The basic causes of death in a low birth weight baby is important for you people to know. These are majorly atelectasis, malformation, pulmonary hemorrhage, intracranial bleeding, secondary to anoxia or birth trauma, pneumonia, and other infections. Now coming to some parameters or indicators used for growth and development assessment. One of the major ones is the weight for age. When there is low weight for age, it is majorly used for classifying malnutrition and determining the prevalence of malnutrition among the child. 80% below the median weight for age of the reference is taken as the cutoff point. Another indicator is the height for age. Whenever there is low height for age, it signifies nutritional stunting and reflects chronic malnutrition. There is usually 2 standard deviation below the median reference as the cutoff point. Just as height for age reflects chronic malnutrition, weight for height reflects acute malnutrition. It is important for you to remember this factor. The weight for height signifies acute malnutrition and indicates nutritional wasting or emaciation. It is usually important when it is less than 70% of expected weight for height and indicates severe wasting. Another tool which is of importance in this regard is the growth chart. It is often called the Road to Health chart. It was initially designed by David Morley and later modified by World Health Organization. It is a visible display of the child's physical growth and development. It is meant for longitudinal follow-up to monitor the growth, and it is compared with the help of certain reference curves. Here you can see the growth chart used for girl child, usually birth to 5 years. This is the one used for boys, again birth to 5 years. If you have a good look at these curves, the red one and the blue ones, the red one has a uniform nature of the curve and it signifies a normal growth, whereas the blue one has a flattening initially and there is a deeping which signifies growth faltering. And the three zones, the green zone is the healthy zone, yellow zone is the zone to look out for, and the orange or red zone is the zone for danger. Basically, the uses of growth chart are for growth monitoring, as a diagnostic tool, helping in planning and policy making, to work as an educational tool, tool for action, evaluation, and of course for teaching. And please make it clear the growth curve nature is very important and interpreting it is important in assessing the nutritional status. If the growth curve is moving upward, then it signifies a good growth. If it is stagnant and following a plateauing, then it is dangerous. And when there is a deepening of curve, that is the curve is going downwards, it is very dangerous and one needs to intervene in both these cases and take care through the healthcare workers. Another initiative which you need to know in this concern is the Baby Friendly Hospital Initiative, which was adopted through the initiative of World Health Organization and UNICEF way back in 1992 in our country. It follows certain dictums. The Baby Friendly Hospital Initiative is basically aimed at ensuring successful implementation of the 10 steps of breastfeeding. That is to firstly to have a proper hospital policy in place so that the infant formula bottles or tits are not promoted. Breastfeeding care is given by standard practice, keeping track of support and care for the breastfeeding. Secondly, the staff competency to be ensured by training the staff on supporting mothers to be breastfed and assessing the health workers' knowledge and skills all along. Thirdly, antenatal care to be rendered by the hospitals and discussing the importance of breastfeeding for babies and mothers and preparing the mother to feed their babies. Fourthly, postnatal care, that is care right after birth, by supporting the mothers to breastfeed, by encouraging skin-to-skin contact between the mother and baby soon after birth, which we call the kangaroo mother care, and helping the mother to put the baby to the breast right away. Fifthly, supporting the mothers with breastfeeding by checking the positioning, attaching and suckling, giving practical breastfeeding support, and helping the mothers with common breastfeeding problems. Number 6 is supplementing, that is giving any breast milk no, not supporting any form of breast milk supplement, rather promoting only breast milk, prioritizing donor human milk when a supplement is needed, and helping mothers who went to formula fit to do it in a safer manner. Seventh point is about rooming in, letting the mothers and babies stay together day and night so that a bond is developed between them. Number 8 is about responsive feeding. Hospitals support mothers to breastfeed by helping mothers know when their baby is hungry and not limiting breastfeeding times. Number 9 is about bottles, tits, and pacifiers to be completely discouraged and the mother to be counseled about it. Number 10 and the last one is discharging the mother, and while discharging, referring the mother to community resources for breastfeeding support and working with communities to improve the breastfeeding support practices. Now, from one of the important health supportive activities like breastfeeding friendly hospital initiative, we move on to ICDS, which was launched on 2nd of October 1975, the Integrated Child Development Services scheme. It is one of the flagship programs of the Government of India. The beneficiaries under the scheme are children in the age group 0 to 6 years, pregnant women, and lactating mothers. The basic objectives of the scheme are improving their nutritional and health status, to lay the foundation for proper psychological, physical, and social development of the child, to reduce incidence of mortality, morbidity, malnutrition, and school dropouts, to achieve effective coordination of policy and implementation among the various stakeholding departments, to enhance the capability of the mother to look after the normal health and nutritional needs of the child through proper nutrition. If you need any more elaboration regarding ICDS or IMNCI for that matter, please get to my YouTube upload on National Health Program Part 1, which has details of all these relevant maternal and child health programs. To be briefing you on IMNCI, in a nutshell, it's an integrated approach to child health that focuses on the well-being of the whole child. It aims to reduce the death, the illness, and the disability, and to promote improved growth and development among children under 5 years of age. It includes both preventive as well as curative elements, and the strategies include basically 3 main components. Firstly, improving the case management of skills of healthcare staff, improving overall health systems, and improving the family and community health practices. There are various indicators as well for assessing whether the maternal child health service delivery is functioning at its optimum level in any place. One of these are maternal mortality ratio. Besides, perinatal mortality rate is also very important from this perspective because it not only includes the neonatal death but also the stillbirth, and hence gives a more comprehensive picture. The neonatal mortality rate, post-neonatal mortality rate, infant mortality rate, 1 to 4 year mortality rate, under 5 mortality rate, and child survival rate. You'll find all these in your textbooks. Please go through this. These are important things that you to take note of. Now coming to the last bit of the presentation, that is geriatric health. Well, aging is not a disease by itself. Well, so said Leonard Heffley. And what it is an irreversible, inevitable, biodynamic change of a body that we cannot revert, but can certainly age successfully. When I say successful, I mean that as we age, we are able to carry out our normal activity in a better fashion, in a healthy manner. Here some important terminologies are gerontology, that is the study of physical and psychological changes which is incident to old age, is gerontology, whereas geriatrics is a branch of medicine that deals with the health of the elderly. It is also known as clinical gerontology. Another important term in this concern is the preventive geriatrics. It focuses on prevention and reduction of disability and improving the quality of the life of the elderly. In this connection, it is important to note the cutoff values for deciding the elderly age group. UN decides it at 60 years, whereas for World Health Organization and for most of the developed countries, it is 65 years. In India, it is taken as 60 years and above. The young old is considered 60 to 75, old 76 to 85, and very old when one is after 85 years of age. The geriatric health problems can be grouped into problems due to aging process, problems associated with long-term illness, and psychological problems. Here you can see a graph showing the disease burden among the elders in India, and the visual complaints forms a major bulk of this. Besides the locomotor system disorders, neurological complaints, cardiovascular system affection, respiratory system problems, skin condition, GI tract, psychiatric problems, and hearing loss are also quite high among this age group. Let's look at the geriatric health problems which arise due to the aging process itself. That is senile cataract, glaucoma, nerve deafness, osteoporosis, emphysema, failure of spatial senses. And geriatric health problems which are due to long-term comorbidities, that is degenerative disease of heart and blood vessels, cancer, accidents, diabetes, disease of the locomotor system, respiratory illnesses, and genitourinary illnesses which worsen over the periods of time. The geriatric psychosocial problems are also often neglected but remains a vexing problem for the elderly which prevents them from participating in meaningful activities. There's anxiety, depression, cognitive changes, sexual changes, changes in the family and social situation, and adjustment problems to the changed scenario. The health status of the elderly, it is seen majorly the elderly population are located in the rural belt, 48% being women, 73% being illiterate and dependent, which is a matter of concern. 66% belong to the below poverty level, and 66% were in vulnerable situation and often were without sufficient food. And these kind of findings led to the national policy in older person in 1999. In fact, this was also the International Year of the Older Persons. This policy highlights the rising elderly population and urgent need to understand and deal with the medical, psychological, and socio-economic problems faced by the elderly. This was the first time that the older persons were recognized as a resource of the country. And in view of the changing needs of the senior citizen over the past decade, the government has reviewed the policies, and the revised national policy for senior citizen was drawn up in 2011. There are various other initiatives taken under the National Social Assistance Programs, ensuring financial security, elderly education, providing them with free shelter, welfare programs, most importantly, treating them as a social resource and not a burden, and ensuring an age-integrated society where it is inclusive of them, providing adequate health care and optimum nutrition, ensuring old age pensions, self-help groups, old age homes, and over all these three classes, we have dealt with a very vulnerable section of a society, that is the mother, the young child, and the geriatric age group. Please do get back to me in case you have any uncertainty, any areas which you need to clear up. I'll be happy to help. Thank you so much. And please do, again, I'm reiterating, subscribe and share this content that may benefit someone else. Thank you so much.